The producer Graham King first reached out. Jaafar found out about the project the way most people would. He read an article online that King had acquired the rights.
It's crazy, you know. I had a lunch with him, and I asked him during that lunch if he was auditioning to play his uncle. And he said, "No, I'm not an actor." I felt it. I felt something about him that was very Michael. And I just met him, so wasn't sure what it was yet. But all through that lunch, they kept asking him, "Are you sure you're not auditioning?" And he says, "No, I've got no aspirations to be an actor." So that's kind of where it started. And then to work together near enough every day for 3 years, putting him on video, doing hair and makeup tests, putting him with Michael's choreographers, Rich and Tone, was incredible. But I still wasn't sure, you know. I auditioned over 200 people around the world. Because I had to look under every stone. I couldn't leave a stone unturned. But I couldn't get my head out of Jaafar. And one day we got together and it just connected. And the kid had never been on a movie set. He's never been in front of a camera. By the way, Giuliano as well, who plays young Michael. And here we are tonight. Everyone's here to see him.
This is really, when you're in the concert, you feel like you're in the front row seat of a Michael Jackson concert. It's a whole collaborative process, from the script stage with John Logan to Marcy Rogers in costume and making sure
to tell Michael Jackson's story. 2 months passed. Then King called and asked for a Zoom meeting. Jaafar already had a feeling about where it might lead. At their first lunch together, Jaafar believed he was simply meeting King, not auditioning. There was no studio attached yet, no director. He was, in his own words, completely being himself. King later described the encounter as transformative. He said he immediately felt he had found the perfect person. But a feeling in a lunch meeting is not the same thing as a finished performance. And the gap between those two things is exactly where the doubt started to grow. King had produced Bohemian Rhapsody. He understood, better than almost anyone in the industry, what it took to find an actor capable of carrying an entire music legend on his shoulders for 2 hours. So before committing, his team conducted a worldwide casting search. Executive producer Lydia Silverman later explained exactly what was at stake. If everything else falls into place, she said, it is never going to matter if people do not believe this is actually Michael Jackson. That sentence is the entire pressure of this role compressed into one line. The sets could be perfect. The script could be flawless. The music rights could be cleared. None of it would matter if the person standing at the center of the frame did not convince an audience that grew up worshiping the real man. King eventually said that even after the worldwide search, it became clear Jaafar was the only person who could take on the role, that he organically personified the spirit and personality of Michael in a way that was, in his words, something so powerful. That is the headline version. The confident, after-the-fact version. What that version leaves out is what happened in the room when the people responsible for the most technical, most visible part of the performance, the choreography, looked at Jaafar early in the process and were not sure he could deliver it. And here is where it gets genuinely strange. Rich and Tone Talauega were not casual observers. They had danced with Michael Jackson directly on the 1996 History World Tour. They knew from the inside exactly how impossible his specific blend of street dance, jazz, ballet, and mime actually was to replicate. Early in the process, Rich and Tone told producer Graham King they were not sure they could get Jaafar where he needed to be, because Michael's moves were, in their professional judgment, inimitable. Think about the weight of that assessment. These were not casting directors guessing from a resume. These were two men who had stood next to Michael Jackson on a stage, who had felt the timing of his movement in real rehearsal, telling the film's producer that the gap between Jaafar's current ability and what the role required might be too wide to close. King relayed this to Jaafar directly, and Jaafar's response was 3 words: "Please give me time." Not a defense, not an argument about why they were wrong, not a list of his qualifications. 3 words that ask for the one thing that cannot be manufactured or rushed: time to prove it through the work itself. That is what they did. They gave him time. If you were doubted that directly, by people whose opinion you respected, in a context where the entire production was watching to see if you would crack, what would you have said back? What Jaafar did with that time is where the almost quitting story actually lives. Not in a single dramatic walkout, but in the grinding, repetitive proof he built day after day to answer a doubt that had already reached the producer's desk before he ever stepped fully into a rehearsal room as the lead. 6 months after that initial launch, King got Jaafar an acting coach and began working on specific scenes. What followed was a 2-year process of auditioning and slowly, physically, becoming Michael Jackson.
What was the audition process like?
Oh, it was.
Was yours harder? It seems more difficult that you're in the family. I feel like that's more added pressure, right?
Well, for me, it was better, honestly, because it just helped me hone in on the preparation. It made me more focused, and it was a process that was almost 2 years of just the auditioning, and that's before I even knew I was really going to play. And then after that, I had like another 1.5 years to really hone in on the little details and nuances, and with that confidence, knowing that I have the role. But the auditioning process was very, very challenging, but it really helped me to shape what I needed to before going into Michael.
Yeah, that's kind of cool, because by the time you do that, you feel way more comfortable and confident, probably.
Oh,
at that
absolutely.
Point.
2 years. Not a single yes or no audition. 2 years of being evaluated, reevaluated, and proving himself again each time the bar moved. That is not a normal casting process. That is closer to a trial, one where the verdict kept resetting and the only way through it was to keep showing up. During filming, Jaafar later described spending hours in the makeup chair as surreal and a spiritual moment at the same time. He said watching himself slowly transform into Michael was emotional. That emotion was not just about becoming a beloved figure. It was about becoming, slowly and physically, proof that 2 professional choreographers and an industry-wide casting search had been wrong to doubt him. Proof that could only be built 1 rehearsal at a time, with no shortcut available. You are probably thinking the doubt ended there, once the choreographers came around. Stay with it, because the people closest to him were not the only ones who needed convincing. There was a moment caught in the film's own marketing that reveals how deep this tension ran, even inside the story itself. In the first teaser trailer, during a recreated studio scene with Quincy Jones, the character played by Kendrick Sampson delivers a line that pokes gentle fun at the pressure Michael always carried around his own dancing, telling him, essentially, to keep his feet still in the studio. It is a small joke inside the film, but it sits on top of something much larger happening outside the film. A nephew who had been told, in real life, by real professionals, that his feet might never move the way his uncles did. When the casting was first announced in early 2023, Katherine Jackson, Michael's mother and Jaafar's grandmother, gave the role her public blessing. "Jaafar embodies my son," she said. "It's so wonderful to see him carry on the Jackson legacy." That endorsement mattered enormously, but it also raised the stakes higher. Now it was not just a producer's reputation and a choreography team's professional judgment on the line. It was the explicit approval of the one person whose opinion mattered more than anyone else's, a woman who had raised Michael Jackson and watched him become the most scrutinized performer on earth. If Jaafar failed now, he would not just be failing himself. He would be failing the grandmother who had publicly vouched for him before he had proven anything on screen. That is the moment most coverage skips entirely. The gap between Katherine's public confidence in early 2023 and the private uncertainty that Rich and Tone were expressing about whether Jaafar could actually deliver what that confidence had promised. By the time the film became, according to the production's own reporting, the highest-grossing music biopic of all time. The story had been smoothed into something simpler, a natural, organic fit, a spiritual connection, a role nobody else could have played. But the documented record shows something more honest than that smooth version. It shows 2 choreographers who had stood next to the real Michael Jackson and were not sure his nephew could close the gap. It shows a producer who had to relay that doubt directly to a 26-year-old with no acting credits. It shows a 3-word response that asked for nothing except the chance to keep working. And it shows 2 years of auditions and coaching sessions where the question of whether Jaafar belonged in this role was never fully settled until the work itself settled it. When his mother finally saw the finished film, Jaafar later described it as strange for her, seeing moments she remembered from real life now reenacted on screen. With her own son standing in for the brother-in-law she had watched her family lose. He said it was a full-body experience, and that it showed a side of him she had never seen before. His father, Jermaine, had still not watched the film by the time Jaafar discussed it publicly. Jaafar said simply that he could not wait for that moment. That waiting, for the one family member who knew Michael longest and most intimately to finally sit down and judge the work, is the same waiting that started years earlier with Rich and Tone. The doubt never fully disappeared. It just kept moving to higher and higher stakes, from choreographers to a grandmother's public faith to a father who still has not pressed play. What almost made Jaafar Jackson walk away from this role was never a single dramatic moment captured on camera. It was something quieter and, in some ways, more demanding. The daily decision to keep absorbing professional doubt from people who had every right to give it, and to answer that doubt with nothing but sustained, repetitive, unglamorous work. Graham King later said he was blown away by the way Jaafar organically personified Michael's spirit. That even after a worldwide search, it became clear there was only one person who could take on this role. That sentence reads like inevitability now. It did not feel inevitable to the two men who first looked at Jaafar and were not sure he could get there. The three words he gave back to them, "Please give me time," turned out to be the only real answer to doubt that this role had room for. Not an argument, not a guarantee, just the willingness to keep working until the question answered itself. He is 29 years old now. The film carries his uncle's name and his own face. And somewhere in a production office, the people who once were not sure he could get there watched him get there. One rehearsal, one season, one earned moment at a time. If this story shifted how you understand what this role actually demanded of him, there's a deeper layer still waiting. What Jaafar found inside Michael's own private journals during this same period. The handwritten mantras he leaned on when his own confidence was being tested connects directly to how he survived the very doubt this video just walked you through. That story is where this one goes next.